Hi, welcome to this video on the WJEC GCSE English Language Reading Exam. This video is looking at the impressions question. So here are the 5 different kinds of question you can get on the reading exam. All the others are covered in the other videos and PowerPoint, so if you want to go to BPC English on YouTube or go to www.bpcenglish.wordpress.com, you can find all the videos and all the PowerPoints. If you want to look at this exam question, actually print off in front of you, then this one is on the website as Ambreen Sadiq Impressions. So the impressions question won't 100% be on the exam, but there's a very good chance of it, and if you do get it, it will definitely be question 2 or question 3. So what does this question want me to do? You may be asked to write what impression an article creates of a place or person. So for example, you might get what impressions do you get of Ambreen Sadiq, or you might get what impressions do you get of Bournemouth, for example. This basically means the kind of view you might have on a place or person when you read what is said about them. So if you get a question saying what impressions do you get of Simon Cowell, it's not based on what you think of him, it's what you read about him on the text you get in the exam. So for example, if someone is described as wanting to get to the top, you may think they would be ambitious. So if the quote is wanting to get to the top, you may think they'd be ambitious. If the text says someone is described as lively, one impression you might get, one view you might get, is they would be fun to know. Here we've got a little table, and on the left I've got quotations, and I just want you to pause the video and see if you can come up with what impression you would get from this quote, and then we'll talk about it. So if the quotation is she is a world champion, one view that I might get, or one impression I will get of that person, is that she is talented. Remember, there's not a definite answer for each of these. As long as you can back it up with a quote in the exam, you'll be fine. He never completes his assignments on time. You could think he would be disorganised. He never leaves until his work is done, so he's conscientious. He's hard-working. And she got A star in her English GCSE. Well, one impression I could get from that is that she is clever. So remember, it's just a view you get based on the text or based on a quote. So again, the question is, what impressions do you get of Ambreen Sadiq? And that is Ambreen there. This article will be on bpcenglish.wordpress.com, or if you want to look on the WJEC site, it's the May 2012 exam. Ambreen Sadiq, Muslim girl boxer, aims to combat prejudice to succeed in the ring. Few girls, let alone Muslim girls, can expect to pick up a pair of boxing gloves and go out fighting, but Ambreen Sadiq, a 15-year-old schoolgirl from Bradford, has overcome opposition from her community to win her latest fight and is aiming for the 2012 Olympics, having already attended one training session with the England squad. Held as a pioneer by the Amateur Boxing Association, Ambreen has already won the National Female Championship for her age and weight. She first became involved with the sport 3 years ago when she accompanied her brother to a local boxing club, and has now been nominated in the female category of the Junior Sports Personality of the Year at this year's British Asian Sports Awards. Her coach, Naz Jali, said, "I think it's brilliant that one of my pupils has been selected. You get some mixed feedback from the Asian community, but with this being the Asian Sports Awards, there is now an acceptance of what she's doing. It gives her a pat on the back and support she needs." He said Ambreen paid no attention to those who disapproved of her boxing for cultural reasons, and she will continue to compete in preparation for June's national championships and works towards competing internationally. Ambreen is a talented and dedicated boxer, but she's also a strong and determined character, and knows she's got the sort of support of her family, friends and coach, and that's all she needs. She doesn't listen to negative comments. In the ring, Ambreen transforms from a shy Muslim girl in traditional dress to a rapid firefighting machine in shorts, vest and ponytail. She admits, though, her culture and religion sometimes make it hard for her. People go to my mum and my dad and say, "Tell your daughter not to box, it's not good, it brings shame to the culture." When they say stuff like that, I do feel really down. I feel like they should be supporting me and be proud of me. It's what I want to do and I think I'm good at it. It really upsets me and gets to me. I just want to prove them wrong. A spokesman for the Muslim Council of Britain said, "We will not take a position against this." He did say some Muslim scholars, however, did regard boxing as inhumane. Aisha Abdeen, Vice Chair of the Muslims World Sports Foundation, said, "We believe that women should have an opportunity to take part in sport and keep fit and healthy. A Muslim woman boxer, I would say, is quite rare." Martin Utley, regional coach for the Amateur Boxing Association, said Ambreen Sadiq was one of the top female boxers in London. There are other Muslim girl boxers, but not at this competitive level. She is pioneering as far concerned in boxing. So remember then, the question is, what impressions do you get of Ambreen Sadiq based on this article? And as we said earlier, this simply means the kind of view you might have of Ambreen based on this text. So if we have a look at a few, the very first line says few girls, let alone Muslim girls, can expect to pick up a pair of boxing gloves. So if you were in the exam, you'd have to say what impression, what review you get of Ambreen based on this. So we could say she's a role model, we could say unique, but I'm simply going to say that she's unusual, because few girls, let alone Muslim girls, want to box. So my impression of Ambreen is that she's unusual, and my evidence to back this up is that it says few girls, let alone Muslim girls, want to box. Same paragraph, it says she's aiming for the 2012 Olympics. So what view, what impression could you get? Well, that's quite an ambitious thing, isn't it, to want to go to the Olympics? So that's the impression I'm going to say. I'm going to say she's ambitious. Again, final line of that paragraph, she's already won the National Female Championship. So if she's become the female champion, the best person for her age and weight in boxing, then she's definitely very good at boxing. So I would say she's definitely talented. So my impression of Ambreen is she's talented, and my evidence to back it up is that she's a champion. So how are you going to write your answer? You're going to do it by giving your view and the evidence in one sentence. So remember, this is not point evidence explain. You're not doing 3 or 4 sentences and saying what the writer thinks or the writer is implying. You're going to do 10 sentences, because remember, you need to do 10, it's 10 marks, so you need to do 10 points. You're going to give 10 sentences. With each one you're going to have the impression you have of Ambreen and the evidence to back this up. So always remember to try and start each sentence with another impression I get or one impression I get. Don't worry about being boring or almost robotic with it. If you say every single time another impression, it really will keep you focused on the question. So, one impression I get of Ambreen is that she's unusual, as it says few girls, let alone Muslim girls, want to box. So my impression is she's unusual. My evidence is few girls, let alone Muslim girls. Another impression, she is ambitious and she's aiming for the 2012 Olympics. Another impression is she's talented, as she's the national champion for her age and weight. So you'll see each one I've put one impression I get is to start my sentence, and each one I've put my impression of her and my evidence to back it up. Just make sure your evidence and your impression link. So the fact that she is a national champion, that does link with my impression of her being talented. But if you put, for example, another impression I get of Ambreen is she is happy as she's she's a national champion, that wouldn't quite link. So you just got to make sure your quote and your impression are relatable. Okay, so I've done 3. Remember, it's not a how question, so you need 10 points. So I want you to pause the video and see if you can come up with another 7 impressions you get of Ambreen based on the text. Okay, so let's go through a sum together. So it says she's overcome opposition from her community. So I would say one impression you get is she's mentally tough. It says that her teacher, her coach, says, I think it's brilliant that one of my pupils has been selected. So he's almost proud of her. So one impression you could get is she's made people proud. The coach says that Ambreen paid no attention to those who disapproved of her boxing. So one impression I get is, again, she doesn't care what people think. It says Ambreen transformed from a shy Muslim girl in traditional dress to a rapid fire fighting machine in shorts. So I'm going to say it's almost she transforms. So one impression I get is that she's a different person, so she changes her personality. She says about her boxing, it's what I want to do and I think I'm good at it. So I think one impression I get is she's confident in her boxing skills. Okay, she says it really upsets me when people have a go at her and it gets to me. I just want to prove them wrong. So another impression I get is she's determined to prove people wrong. She's a role model, and at the end the person from the Boxing Association says there are other Muslim girls boxers but nothing like her. She is pioneering. So pioneering is almost like the top one or the first one to do something. So another impression you can get is there are few people like her. So here's the mark scheme. There's 16 or 17 things on here. We've covered most of them, but if you want to read, pause the video. So remember, you're given the view you have of Ambreen based on the evidence in one sentence. So, for example, another impression is she's ambitious as she's aiming for the 2012 Olympics. So my impression is she's ambitious. My evidence is she's aiming for the 2012 Olympics. Okay, so let's look at the answers. So one impression I get of Ambreen is she is unusual, as it says few girls, let alone Muslim girls, want to box. Another impression, she is ambitious as she's aiming for the 2012 Olympics. Another impression is she's mentally tough as she overcame opposition from her neighbourhood to win her last fight. She doesn't care what people think and she paid no attention to those against her. Another impression is she becomes a different person when she fights and she changes into a fighting machine. She is confident in her boxing skills as she says she's good at it. Another impression is she's motivated to prove her critics wrong. I just want to prove them wrong. One impression I get is she's doing something a lot of Muslims would be against, as some call it inhumane. She's a rarity in boxing, as she's described as pioneering in the sport. Another impression I get is she's strong and determined, as her coach describes her as this. So the last one's a little bit different because I'm basically not giving a quote, but the coach does describe her as that. So that's the impression I get because he's telling me that. So we could definitely use that one. So you'll notice all the way through, my red font is my impression and my pink font is my quotes. Every single sentence, it's only one sentence for each one. My red is my impression and my pink is my quote. So for example, red, my impression is she is ambitious. My quote is she's aiming for the 2000 Olympics. Red is she's confident. That's my impression. My quote in pink is because she's good at it. She's a rarity because she's pioneering in the sport. She's motivated to prove her critics wrong. That's my impression. My point to prove that is I just want to prove them wrong. So each one, I start with another impression is, because that's where I want to structure my answer. Then my red is my impression and my pink is my quote. Every single time, really easy. It looks like quite a simple question. Remember, you've only got 13 or 14 minutes to do all 10. Okay, so if you want to look at any more videos or any more PowerPoints on this or any other questions in the reading or writing exam, go to YouTube and type in BPC English or go to bpcenglish.wordpress.com.